fundamentally it comes down to what is the Catholic Church? See, this is where I think there is an error in what I've called ecclesiology. When we wrote the book True or False Pope, that's 7 years ago now, the foundation of our refutation for sedevacantism and what we call other modern errors was that the extreme traditionalists, I think, have lost sight of what the Catholic Church really is.
Just put one second. You wrote this book as a member of the SSPX while you were there attending? I know you said you went one foot in the door.
Yeah, but I wasn't a member because I'm not a priest, but yes, I was with the society, and in fact, the society endorsed the book.
I see.
Yeah,
continue.
They endorsed the book. What you're describing, Matt, I think we can all relate to because we're attracted by the appearances. But what I said is there's a distinction between what appears to be Catholic and what is Catholic in legal reality. Okay, the Catholic Church, as Christ instituted it, is a juridical hierarchical institution. It's to the institution that the promises of Christ apply, not to the individual members per se. It's the institution of the Church itself. And I think, as I've seen this, and I think others are coming to see it too, is that the era of ecclesiology focuses on what I see, what appears to be Catholic and how it makes me feel. The nice cassocks, the incense, the traditional Latin Mass, those are all good things. But what is the juridical reality? They're saying this is Catholic without regard to whether it's celebrated in a Catholic church by a priest with canonical mission from a bishop with ordinary jurisdiction, without regard to whether the priest is incardinated, without regard to whether the priest has the faculties to say the Mass. This is a problem. The problem, in my opinion, with the traditionalist movement is that they have redefined the Catholic Church today as a reaction to all these abuses. Okay, I understand the source. As a reaction to all these abuses, because they see these abuses within the hierarchical structure of the church, they step back and they say, you know what? The Catholic Church is truly only those who profess the true faith.
Okay.
And by professing the true faith, what do they mean by that, Matt? They mean those who go to the traditional Mass and reject Vatican II and the new Mass. You see? So they've almost redefined the church to be this spiritual body of true believers who profess the true faith, again, without regard to whether the minister is part of the juridical structure of the church and has been lawfully sent by the authority of the church. This is a problem. This is kind of where the rubber meets the road here. And really, this is an error of modernism in a sense, of immanence, right? Where I'm basing my decision on what is true on how I feel and what I appear to be the case, but not on the legal reality of the situation. This is what is so dangerous, because this is exactly what the Protestants said. I have a number of books on the Protestants, and they said the same thing, that the Romans lost the faith, all the clergy are corrupt. We hold the true faith, and the promises of Christ only apply to true believers who possess the true faith. That is not Catholic ecclesiology. The Catholic Church is the Church of Rome, and all of the particular churches and dioceses that are legally united to her. That is the Roman Catholic Church. And this is, I think, where the error comes into play, because they're making a judgment on truth based upon appearances only and not the legal reality.
Is there like an SSPX catechism? Is there a place you can go to get the official answer of an SSPX teaching? Because I know when you go online, you listen to certain SSPX people, they say many of these things. And I often wonder, do they represent the SSPX? Is there a way to find out exactly what they teach? Because I have gone to their YouTube channel and I have seen them saying, don't be going to a Novus Ordo Mass, if memory serves. And I was quite shocked by that.
Yeah.
But could someone who goes to an SSPX chapel point to that and say, okay, that's not all of us, that's just this person or that person?
Well, if you go to a society chapel, they will promote the writings of Archbishop Lefebvre. I mean, I have all his books, right? So I've read through all those and I've got an understanding of what he taught and what the seminary teaches. And so if you want to know what the society teaches, they just did a Crisis Series podcast. I've listened to all of those. They're very clear about what they teach in terms of doctrine. And what I've discovered, Matt, is oftentimes the society priest will articulate a doctrine beautifully, correctly, but then fail to understand how their position is inconsistent with that profession. For example, I'll give you an example. In the Crisis series of podcasts, I won't name the particular priest because most of them said this. They will profess that the Roman Catholic Church is a juridical, hierarchical structure, and that one must be united to the structure of the church, both in faith, worship, and governance, right, to be a member of the Roman Catholic Church. That's absolutely correct. But they're not part of that structure. They're not part of it. So how do they reconcile their accurate enunciation of the doctrine with the fact that they're not part of it? You know, there's a disconnect between what I've called the speculative intellect, right, which is the profession of the true doctrine, which they articulate, and the practical aspect, that they're not part of it. And what they end up doing is basically chalking it up to mystery. They just say, well, this is a mystery how this is all working out. And at the end of the day, they say, but we stand with Archbishop Lefebvre. Watch all those Crisis series of podcasts. This is very unique in the way they approach this. The Protestants reject our doctrines, okay? But the society will properly articulate these doctrines, but then fail to reconcile how their so-called ministry is not consonant with the teaching of the church. And so they then retreat back to mystery and hide behind Archbishop Lefebvre. And what you find with these society priests is it's almost as if Archbishop Lefebvre becomes their rule of faith, where they defer ultimately to Lefebvre as opposed to the magisterium. This is what I have found.
Yeah, I know the SSPX that I know will say to me, we are not in schism. And I go, oh, okay. And then I'll listen to the things they put out, and they very clearly seem to be indicating that I am. They may not come out and say that exactly, but in saying, like, you really shouldn't be attending a Novus Ordo church, it's like, okay, so I guess